He looks at me and goes, probably.
It is noon, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call.
I didn't know any rolls.
No, I didn't know any rolls.
I'm here.
It's a new on there, so a roll call.
Yeah, basically I'm just gonna make sure that I've got it all written down as to who's missing.
Okay.
We're gonna start keeping a little bit closer track
Okay.
too when we've got people missing that have been missing 3 or more in
Yep.
a row.
Yep, sounds good.
Chris McCarthy, present. Mike Peterson.
Dan Egler.
Jeff Stevenson, present.
Perfect.
All right. Okay.
We'll figure that one out.
All right. No, that's fine. We can do that every time. I don't care.
No,
That's a good
but just-
thing. It's a good thing. Okay, approve minutes of the June 6th meeting. Are there any questions or, any, additions? I didn't see additions. I got one question on it. Under that, CEDA updates.
Mhm.
I didn't see it on this, but did you get a chance then, to talk to Keith Cousins from Rochester Area Builders, learn how they'd be able to benefit the casting our development goals?
Yes, we did
Okay.
get a chance to chat with him.
Okay.
And that was after that meeting though, which is why it wasn't in the
Okay.
note, in the minutes, but, we ended up going ahead and we are now actually a member of the
Okay.
Rochester Area Builders, so we got our certificate in the mail, so that's all done, and it was at no cost to us, it's for, a city, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And you'll report on that sometime then?
Yeah, absolutely, I can,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
for sure.
Sounds good. How you doing, Mitch?
Good, sorry I'm late.
No problem, we're on.
First
we're
day
marking
off.
it down. We're just approving minutes.
First day off after I'm retired, so.
Congrats.
And now you got all the time in the world.
And I was late.
Yeah, now you're busier, see?
Yeah.
You're busier now.
Does he still wear a watch? Oh, he's got a watch.
Yeah. Oh, geez, oh, it says 5:02.
Yeah.
Typical.
That was at banker hours, you gotta get off that banker hour stuff, see?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report. We're gonna run through that, or? Anybody have any questions on it? The only question I have on it is, current assets. So what do we actually have? I see we got an EDA Financial Assistance Fund and then an Economic Development Fund. Which fund, is it the Financial Assistance Fund that we can loan out money to folks?
I will have to check on that, I'll check with Teresa as to
Okay.
which one that is, where she's at, but,
I'm
so you
assuming-
just wanna know which one we can do like our revolving loan fund out of?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Just that.
And what we have available for that.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
sure
and we're
she
actually
knows.
about to start looking into, we were having a hard time determining which was the original funds
Mm-hmm.
and which was added later. So we're actually gonna be working with, an individual with the state, he's gonna kinda help us try and resort that out.
Yep.
And then we should be able to get a much more clear picture and get that out to you guys as well.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
So I will find that out by the next meeting for you.
Does anybody got any other questions on the financial report? Okay, we don't need a motion to accept that or anything, do we? I don't think so.
It's just for our,
Our information.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, neighborhood development plan, Ron, you are up.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ron Ziegler. I'm President and CEO of CEDA. First of all, thanks for the time on the agenda. And second of all, and more importantly, thanks for your confidence in our organization and in contracting with us. I'm not here to sell you anything today, but I am here to make you aware of a program that's out there. I'm going to try and go through a 2-hour presentation in 10 minutes or less. So we'll see how this goes. You guys are kind of the first run at the condensed version here. The Neighborhood Development Center, I don't know if any of you have heard of that yet, but it is a nonprofit organization based in downtown St. Paul. They are geared towards the entrepreneurial culture for downtown. and they have received funding through the legislature over the past few years. And this year, in the legislature's infinite wisdom, they said, you guys are doing good things in downtown St. Paul, we are going to require you to spread your word throughout the state, just to let other organizations know about it. We were approached to represent them in southeast Minnesota. You know, when they got this, they said, we don't know anybody in outstate Minnesota, how do we do this? So they approached us about our communities in southeast Minnesota. In my mind, to be quite frank, I think this is probably more for an Austin, Albert Lea, and Owatonna type size community, but I told them that I would bring it to our communities to say, here's an opportunity, if there are some needs, some thoughts, if there's some way that any of this can be utilized in our communities, let's get it out there anyway. The whole concept behind this is to create an environment to foster entrepreneurial work. And their definition of an entrepreneurial work, and I'm just going to start into this. This is some background on them, what they did. But what they really are based on is low-income, immigrant-type business owners. All of their information that first came to me was all based on immigrant entrepreneurial businesses and the like. And I said, well, you know, diversity in our area typically amounts to whether you're Catholic or Methodist. You know, there's some, but there isn't a whole lot. But I did make the case that, you know, there's probably a great majority of our entrepreneurs up and down Main Street or that are thinking about it that can qualify as low income. So that's kind of the basis of what we're presenting this information to people, to organizations, is that no matter your race, typically, especially entrepreneurs starting out, filing a Schedule C can show that they are low income and can meet certain criteria. These are just stories that they have done. As you'll notice, bottom bullet, they talk about business owners of color. But again, downtown St. Paul is a little different culture than downtown Castle. I think some of these barriers are the same. I think some of them are irrelevant. I don't know that there is a language barrier here unless there is a business owner or culture that does come in, and then we can work through those in Rochester. They do like to create partnerships. That is kind of the model that they create, is trying to get all organizations to work together. The bottom line to all this is this hub and spoke system. This is their way of creating this network. So the thought would be is that in a city the size of Casson, you would have a central hub. Probably by default, I'm standing in front of the group that it would be, and then you'd have all these other organizations out there. You'll have the Chamber of Commerce if you have one, the business club, church organizations, and that kind of stuff. But it is somebody, an organization such as you guys, that has to take the bull by the horns and do the investment not only in resources and time, but the talents as well to move this thing forward. The process that someone goes through is, if this is something that this board says, hey, we want Rebecca to spend her time doing this, we want to expand to more time, it's a training process. And as you can imagine, since the government is involved, this is not an hour and a half on a Tuesday morning that you're going to do training. It is a commitment to make things happen in your community. Small business lending, they have a lending arm of this as well. So, you know, your community does have some revolving loan funds, which you'll find out more information on, but that's part of it as well. And, you know, we do this no matter, you know, you meet one of 5 criteria, we can move it forward as well. So there isn't any great theory behind this in my mind, and I'm not trying to undersell this, but I sure don't want to try and oversell it to you either. So the biggest thing that I think is business assistance. Again, there are other resources out there, such as the Small Business Development Center. Our organization has 5 or 6 small business counselors that can help do these different things. So there is bits and pieces of a lot of what they do that have resources out there that new businesses can still be part of. This is the driving key behind what happened in St. Paul along, what's the road in front of the Capitol? Washington Street? Along Washington Street, there was quite a few empty buildings, probably 15, 20 years ago or so, and that is how this organization was really driven, is to fill those buildings. And if you drive down there today, you'll notice that they've been quite successful in making things happen there. You know, whether Casson has a lot of empty buildings, in my mind, I think downtown building vacancy is pretty cyclical. You know, there are probably years, maybe 10, 15 years ago, where you had quite a few. If I had to make a guess now, you're probably down to a couple. And again, they're really emphasizing the immigrants. These are just companies that they've helped along the way. And that is what they're trying to form, as an inclusive community economic development organization. And here's a sample of what we talked about as a rural hub. The letters are too small that you can't even see it, but they list out civic groups, chamber of commerce, churches, I can't even read that one, ethnic groups, neighborhood groups. So it's a community buy-in. And in my mind, I think the whole key is that if you do this, you don't want to do it part way. I think it's a waste of your time and probably a waste of your resources if you do. We are still working on what that looks like in a smaller community such as the size of Casson, or even smaller such as the size of Chatfield. So that's information that if you do have an interest, I can bring back through Rebecca. They are looking for commitments going forward for time, and it's a matter of having staff go and create dialogue with their organization to see what can happen. We have been having discussions with them as to, you know, maybe we as CEDA can come to them and have one type organizations, but in those dots would be our communities that are contracted with us to make something happen. Or we're also having discussion about, could it be a county level? So here, you know, could Dodge County be the spoke in the middle, and then the rest of the communities be part of that? So that's kind of my pitch. I'm not looking for any answers today. We will have more answers for you as to the amount of time and the amount of dollars and stuff that is going to be needed coming forward, but I just wanted to throw it on your plate anyway to show you that something that's out there.
Any questions for Ron?
So when they require this organization to go statewide versus St. Paul, did they fund them with additional dollars?
They did.
So that
They,
just thought maybe
yeah,
so
no.
make do with what you've had and cover twice
Yeah.
as much area.
It's interesting because the way the legislation was written is that this organization asked for like $235,000. So they got the 235, but the legislature added $185,000 to do this outreach. And there's no requirement to do anything. It ends up where there's going to be 2 communities in the state that have a pilot project for this. Again, I'm just guessing that it's going to be a little larger. But, you know, this organization has done some work like in Detroit and in some of those communities, but they haven't really gotten into the rural area yet. So we'll see how that comes forward.
County makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes more sense.
It makes more sense than the city,
Yeah,
from our
yeah,
perspective,
from our
having
perspective.
each city sending
Right.
staff time up there,
Right.
especially if they really don't have a model where the smaller cities are
Right.
involved yet.
Right.
For us to have either you or the county be the point person.
Otherwise, you might as well go to Austin or Alberta or
Right.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to get through to them, but I did want to make sure that all of our communities were aware of it in case there's some community out there that says, hey, we got some extra bucks and some extra time, let's take a run at it. The interesting thing too is that, and I might be getting off on a tangent here, but you know, we have so many organizations, especially in this part of the state, that do a lot of the same things they're talking about, a lot of the same things, you know, DMC ready, journey to growth, and we're all part of those. But what has just come out now too is the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation has done the rural entrepreneurial venture application that just went in. And it's similar to this, but the interesting thing is that I think those things will go hand in hand, because the Smith approach is more broad scale, where this actually gets down into the nuts and bolts. So we'll see what communities end up with that too.
Now, would this be for existing businesses or just new startups?
Both.
Both.
Both, yep.
Because we do have, you know, like, the State Theater's been there a long time, but that's young entrepreneurs, the new, watch people that, you know,
That's it.
yeah, there's
Any
like
additional
3, 4.
programs we can get is
Yeah,
sure.
you know.
And that's where, you know, right now, if there's something that they need some help with, don't hesitate to mention Small Business Development Center, or send them to Rebecca, and we can get them.
The guys in your building there, John, you know, all entrepreneurs
Yeah,
just starting
even
out,
like,
yeah.
Pat Brown with
Yep,
those,
with
two
those.
Luzol units, he's trying to restore and get
Yeah.
people in, if he could get some assistance to
Mhm.
put other dollars into
I
it.
can
to
think
make it
4 or
better.
5 young entrepreneur folks, you know, so, yeah.
If you have other questions, don't hesitate to shoot me. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ron.
Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody get a chance to, on number 5 here, look at the policy procedure manual. Is there any questions, concerns?
The major changes from the last time we had spoke about it is, I completely redid the application. So the application, instead of being 2 pages, is now 8 pages. This should eliminate a lot of the problems that we had trying to get information in previous applications, because it should all be included now. It'll be the 8 pages plus their attachments.
One question I got for you, Rebecca, under this, you know, I think, you're looking at, there's land, you know, offers, that type of thing. Do you want a committee? If you have something like that come along, do you want me to appoint 2 folks from the EDA to help you with that, or do you not? You know, that's what I mean, you know, when you do get some offers to look at?
I feel like maybe if there's a number of them coming in, or if the project is large enough that it might warrant, you know, the extra,
Yeah.
obviously the extra man hours, that certainly could be, but I mean, we could probably take a look at that on a one-on-one basis, as far as
Okay.
when one application comes in, if it seems like it's one that would need a little additional,
And you just
then we could just appoint it at that
Okay.
time. Yeah, so we could kinda go on a
Case by case.
case basis, yeah.
Sounds good. And this information at the end of this application, I mean, this business plan and attachments,
Mhm.
is this so much stuff that's gonna scare people away from wanting to?
90% of this was already on our previous application, saying things we may or may not ask for.
Is this stuff we all asked for, this much stuff before?
Quite a bit of stuff, yeah.
Yep, and then some stuff we weren't
Sure,
asking
we're
for,
gonna-
but we are required to report on it each year.
Mhm.
And so then we'd have to chase them down later to go get that information, because it wasn't on the application, but we needed it for our annual reporting for the revolving loans. So we decided just to put it in so that we had it from the very beginning, and we have that information for the report.
So this is just necessarily not all, this would have to be produced for the loan application, it's just that, you asked for it.
Correct, and yeah, and we did also put on that very back page, like it does mention, like, make sure to include all of the information that's applicable to the project. So there will be items that may not be applicable to that particular applicant,
Okay.
and then they can leave those out.
And I thought the same thing you did, Jeff, at first, 'cause I just love going to the bank and filling out 75 reams of paper to
Right.
get a loan that you've had for years. But on the other hand, the clients we work with that start new businesses, this information would be a help to them to say, hey, I can just go down to EDA and borrow some money, I don't really have to do much paperwork, and oh,
Yeah.
shoot, that didn't work, 'cause they didn't think about.
Yeah.
So at least it gives them an idea to go, oh yeah, starting a business is a little more than, I mean, you know what it's like.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it might also weed out the application that's not really serious.
Absolutely.
If you're serious about it and really wanna do something, this is not, we should have all this anyway.
And if there's some things like for a current business in town, that they wanna repaint their building, or reshingle their building, and they come down for this, you may not ask for all that information, they've been in business for 25 years.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of what my question really was, you know.
Yeah, for those
Been
small
here for a
ones.
long time, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, those are more for when you're new business, creating a whole new business plan, those types of things. We wanna make sure it's all laid out, so they've got a
Like
little
that,
bit there.
that nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen in the past where
Yeah.
people send an application and then it's another month, and then it's another month, cause they realize they didn't have, you know.
Yeah.
And then some of them, after they start filling out first page, like, ooh, maybe we don't wanna,
Yeah, maybe we don't get to it.
cause they don't wanna sit and think about it.
Yep.
So if you don't wanna think about this, you,
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on it? Do we need to approve that then?
Yeah, this just needs to be approved, and then we will put it into effect.
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion to approve the new, procedure, policy manual.
I'll make a motion to do that.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're to the cash and comprehensive plan.
All right, and I did put in your guys' packets, just some of the information off the website. So like, and I guess, yeah, for those of you that don't have packets in front of you, making sure that if everybody hasn't had a chance to, if you can go to the comp page, there's a section where you can go onto the map and kind of do your little thumbs up, thumbs down, put in comments on different things you've seen in town that you'd like to see changed or that you think are great. We wanna make sure that we're kinda just encouraging as much participation on that page as possible. So if we can help and put some on there, it'll hopefully encourage other citizens to participate in that as well. And then, Chris, I didn't know if maybe you'd be able to update everyone as to what happened at the meeting last week?
Sure. Last Tuesday, we went out to high school, we invited the public in for basically a little short presentation from Brad, with the Boulder group. But then it was an interactive hour that everybody spent. We broke out in groups of 4 to 8 people per table. We had a big map that looked like a big Monopoly board. I should have brought one in my car. But each square on that game board had something to do with town, whether it was parks or business or streets or whatever it was. You kind of played around with that, and people shared their opinion, and they had some questions on their meetings people. I had several people when they came in said, "Oh, I didn't realize it was interactive. I just gonna sit here and watch." And after about 5 minutes, I looked up and Elaine Coulter was like, "No, she's quite, you know." So everybody got into it. So even the folks that said, "No, we just thought we'd sit and listen," the way Brad organized it, I thought was fantastic. And some of the conversations that came out of it, I had people say, "Wow, I guess, you know, I live in Northwest and I drive out of town every day to go work and I come back to home. I didn't realize Northeast had that park. I didn't realize that street was in a bad condition, and, you know, and I'm the one complaining that why are we spending all this money to," you know, he said afterwards he drove around on his way home and he called me the next day and said, "Wow, it's a bigger town than you know," so it really opened up a lot of people's eyes of exactly what is going on in Casson. It's not your little country.
Not your own little
Yeah.
neighborhood.
There's a lot of stuff going on, so I think it engaged a lot of really good conversations. So, you know, we had about 42 or 44 residents that weren't on the council or part of the working group with the comp plan. So I thought it was worthwhile. I'm trying to put it together to do at the chamber meeting next Wednesday for right afterwards. Anybody that, where we're gonna go eat and do whatever, if anybody wants to come in, I've got a couple of the boards that if we get a group of, it really needs 4 people. Cause, you know, Jeff and I, you and I could sit around the board, we could put all the stickers we want and make all the comments. What you really need is, you know, 4, 5, 6 people with a different opinion.
Yeah.
To say, "Oh, I didn't think of that," or "Did you think of this?" To really engage the conversation.
It opens up your mind a
Yeah.
bit too.
You
And then I'm-
realize the different
Yeah.
segments of
Yeah,
town.
and then I'm working with, Legion of possibly next Monday night at 7 o'clock. They give us a couple tables downstairs or somewhere to let some people come in, and I'll just put that on Facebook and phone calls, if anybody wants to show up, and we can kick it around. Cause Brad told me at the comp plan meeting, he says, if you have it a place where they serve beer, you might get more people to show up.
And more
He
people
says,
to talk,
obviously, the
give
city,
their
you
opinion.
can't buy them the beer, he says, but if
Yeah.
it's available to them, and he says, that's amazing how much good,
When you
honest
get
feedback
different
you get
people.
after people have.
Just don't let the meeting go too long.
Right,
When
so.
you get a different variety of people that come to that, don't mind putting their input in, they don't want everybody else to know they get it to them $1.
Right.
So those two opportunities are there, if anybody, they get a chance, wants to do that, and I'll send an email to you guys if I do get that arranged for the Legion next Monday night. If
Okay.
you'd like to attend that. That'd be the,
You said that was at 7 PM at the Legion?
yeah, I'll know
Tentatively.
I'll know this afternoon.
Yep.
Seven?
I'll just wait for the email. Then I don't have it written down, forget where I wrote it.
I'm you know, on a personal note, I'm certainly glad that the council's engaging the citizens and trying to get more, because I'm not a real fan of comprehensive plans. I think that there's been, since the nineties, probably 3 of them, you know, and they can go away real quick, you know, so,
After the hype.
But after new council comes in, that's what I'm saying, you know, they can just get trashed. We thought a nice one in the nineties until, 2002 was gone, so,
Well,
you
then
know.
things change, so, you know,
Yeah.
community changes.
Yeah, so, you know, I just think that, I just hope we're not spending too much time and money more than anything else on it, because I just think it's a moving target, comprehensive plan, but it's good to have a direction too, so.
I think that's
Yep.
maybe a little different with this one, because Brad has
Yeah.
made that clear at the working group meetings we've had. He says, no, this isn't just something you're gonna
Don't make it
print
too
up and you guys will
specific.
approve it
Yeah.
next April, and then
Yeah.
you throw it in the drawer, and then we dust it off every year, look at it. It's basically gotta be,
A moving plan.
because it has to change, you
Yeah.
said, because obviously if your population goes stagnant for a while, something's changing.
Yeah,
If
tweak
it grows
it.
by 200 people more than you thought.
Tweak it every year, yeah.
something, you know,
Yeah, you really have to, or every
yeah.
2 years.
It's gotta be a living
Yeah.
document, it can't just
Yeah.
die on the shelf.
Otherwise it'll die in the shelf, yeah. Anything else, Rebecca, on the comprehensive plan?
Nope, that is it for the comp plan.
Okay, Shopko update.
And with Shopko right now, it's not the Shopko, I guess, our attempt at getting the easements for the lot.
Yep.
We had sent out the proposal, that actually went out end of June, we still haven't gotten anything back. We did receive an email that has been forwarded on to the correct individuals with the Shopko Corporation, so now we're just waiting to hear back from them, so just kinda waiting for the corporate mess to work itself out and get a response, so we should be hearing from them soon, though it's been getting, you know, close to a month and a half to 2
So
months.
is it actually Shopko itself that has that authority over the easement, or is it the property owner?
It is a segment of Shopko, because initially we had to go through Crancy Realty, because they have all the contact info. Then it got forwarded into Shopko, but it's kind of their statewide versus their national group, that'll take a look, since they technically are the property owners now. But we don't think it should be a problem. It should come back to us within the next 30 days, we'd be assuming, and we should find out if we've got those easements, but
And if we
it
don't?
shouldn't be a problem. Then we're gonna have to look at taking some other actions, possibly also talking to the state, because we'd have to look at getting easements along, either on Fourth itself or on the highway, but I think Fourth would be the option we'd have to take at that, but having 2 turn-ins, 2 easements right there just
Maybe
seems
that
to-
would do
They
it.
will not do it.
But the good thing that we put forth to Shopko is that by putting those easements in the parking lot like we're requesting, it's just gonna bring more foot traffic and more vehicle traffic into their lot, and so really, it's just gonna work out better for them in the long run, so.
It's their benefit to have something there that draws people that parks in that
Yeah.
lot.
Exactly.
When they walk out of that office, they're gonna go, oh, Shopko's right here, I better go get those jeans for my kids.
Yep,
And it's
exactly,
Short-sighted if they don't.
exactly, so yeah, we aren't anticipating that there should be any problem with that, it's just a matter of waiting
Takes
for a
time.
response.
Shopko really should be saying, hey, put something there, but all the parking should be in our spot, our parking lot. Or even put parking on that grassy lot that the city owns there, just say, that could be their business, but we
Mhm.
want them parking in our lot.
Mm.
And don't put parking, because they have to walk further.
Yeah,
That's
'cause they have
correct.
such a large parking lot there too, it's not like it's gonna be full if it's just their customers, so it's perfect for.
And I'm sure they can work out that agreement. Who knows with corporate?
And if they wanted some sort of maintenance agreement to deal with snow removal and those kind of things, I'm sure it could be worked out with whoever purchases that property.
Right.
And there is no problem with, parking lot, I mean, space, depending on the type, I mean, it's so many spots per business, and
Plenty of parking there.
Yeah,
Plenty of
it's,
parking.
yeah,
Right.
it's,
That's
I've
not an
never
issue.
seen that full, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'm trying to think of with the size of lot that's there, I don't know what business you could put in there that would require,
More that back parking, yeah.
cause it's such, it's, you know, it looks big, but it's not.
Yeah.
not
And we've
Then
had
we'll
it-
put a building there.
We've had very little, but a little bit of interest actually coming in ever since we put those signs up. And most people that are looking at that are actually thinking more office space style, business there, which would mean it wouldn't even take up that much,
It's
but
not really retail, probably.
you went in for any of those services, you could come right out and go, your shop go and hop right in.
Cool, good. Okay, CEDA updates.
All right, so we got a couple of things since we kind of missed a month in there. We did attend, Teresa and I both actually attended the Journey to Growth. It was their biannual meeting in June, end of June. And I guess, as far as that, the biggest items that we talked about, the one that's got the largest impact to Casson specifically, is their partnership for the Highway 14 expansion. They are working to support that partnership right now, and expand from, it'd be between Rochester and New Ulm. And they want to be able to make that a 4-lane versus a 2-lane the entire way, which obviously that means more people will be interested in taking the highway rather than maybe popping up to 14 or sticking down on Interstate 90 and actually coming by us instead. So that would actually be beneficial to us as far as passerby traffic. And once we get that giant quick stop all up and running, I think that'll be another thing that'll be a nice draw to at least people who are going to be popping in for the short term and spending some money in the area. Teresa also asked that I add it all in here. If you guys have any questions about what happened at that Journey to Growth meeting, it was mostly just kind of a summary of what was going on throughout the last half of the year. I've got all of the inserts from there in your packet, so those will be on your ones that I had emailed to you as well. Then we went through with the Preservation Alliance of Minnesota, with the Minnesota Main Street program. We went up to Faribault 2 weeks ago. There were a couple of our community members that came along so that they could hear what they had to say about the program, ask questions, those types of items. We did learn that as we've become an associate member of the Preservation Alliance now, it will get us discounted rates to going to their trainings. It's going to also give us a little bit of access to some marketing information, which we can possibly utilize. I know that's something that Teresa's kind of digging into, and I'll be kind of helping her with that now that I'm back from my vacation as well. And we'll check to see what other types of benefits this is going to have to offer us. A lot of the meeting that we had out there was kind of geared towards the training aspects, but
So training for
city members that want to find out about the different programs that the Minnesota Main Street has to offer. So we're still kind of digging into that a little bit. I did actually attend one later on in that week. It was about vacant and underutilized buildings in downtown. I did find that one to be very, very informative. With a lot of different ideas on what we can do with some of our underutilized and our empty buildings. One thing I found really interesting, one of the concepts I found really interesting, I'd love to be able to put forth to you guys just something to think about, which is when you have individuals who are somewhat problem landowners, whether they are slumlords or whether they are, manipulating their rent prices and can't keep people in there. Just kind of some of the things that we've seen with our downtown as far as keeping people in there, keeping people in running shops in your businesses. And that's that you could create a downtown district, and within that district, then you can move forward and set up a certain set of criteria that people would need to meet in order to avoid paying an annual fine. And you make it so easy to avoid the fine that nobody has to get too missed about it. So, for example, if we have a lot of businesses that are empty, after whatever we would set for criteria, say after 6 months, okay, you've been vacant for 6 months, at the end of this year you will accrue a fine, and you can set it for whatever amount. They were seeing people that were doing, at cities the size of Casson, $500 to $1,000 a year fine. Now, to avoid getting that fine, you either needed to get another business in your building, or you could do improvements to your building. And all you had to do is prove to the city, hey, we needed to get, a new awning, or we wanted to replace the windows, or we knew that there were some problems with the siding, or, you know, whatever they're doing, they just have to show that they're doing some improvement to the building, and then they don't have to pay that fine. But it would help for some of the buildings that need a little work and are sitting empty. Well, at least if they're sitting empty, they're gonna start looking a little better. It's gonna raise that property value, not just for themselves, but for their neighbors. It's gonna encourage people being downtown as things start to look better. And you can, again, the city be able to set the criteria as to what would need to be done to avoid fines, how much fines would be, when it would be imposed. And then there would be an annual, kind of go through, if somebody would go through each of the properties, do a report based on, you know, is it at par for the standards, that, again, the city would set to be operating. Same thing with the apartments that are above. But it would just encourage business owners, well, I guess property owners, to have a little bit of, I don't know, have respect for their own buildings and want all of downtown to succeed, and not encouraging people to start walking halfway down the street and then they see a bunch of vacant buildings and they turn around, and that poor little guy down at the end of the street doesn't get any foot traffic down there because people are seeing empty buildings and they just turn around.
What type of enforcement they have for the fines? If the guy just says, I'm not paying the fine, screw you.
Basically, you'd revoke their ability to do business downtown.
How do you do that? They own the building?
They might own the building, but they don't own the rights to run a business out of it.
Sure.
Well, that'd be a portion of the downtown district that you would impose, and by being downtown, you are
So you'd have to have some kind of business license to.
essentially to run, and it
Just
would
like,
be.
just like a rental license. in
Exactly,
Rochester.
and so the city would just give those out each year, and it wouldn't cost anyone anything to have those, it's just if you won't comply, then it wouldn't.
What's the success rate? You have 4 empty buildings for 2 years, and now you're gonna impose a fine. Do they find in those cities that now those buildings are getting rented out? Because doesn't some of that have to do with supply and demand? If there's nobody demanding to rent the space,
Absolutely.
you could put 10 grand a
You
year
could
to
give it to
that
them for
building
free.
for 20 years
Yep.
and give it to them for $100 a month, and nobody's going in there.
And that was one of the things that they did bring up, during that training, was, you know, there's a difference between it being the landowner's fault that they're not getting someone in there, and frankly, it just being the city's because we haven't enticed enough businesses to come in. So there's definitely that difference, and that's something that, again, while setting up the program, you'd be taking into account. You know, if the building is completely at the par level where it's supposed to be, and they've only been vacant for a short period of time, or they have been vacant for a longer period of time, but we aren't sure, you know, everything looks right, we're not gonna require them to make improvements that don't need to be made. We're not gonna penalize them for having it empty when the city frankly hasn't been doing its job to get people in. So I mean, it's a balancing act on that, and it's something that would take time putting that program together. As far as success rates, I will reach out and see if they've got those exact numbers for me. They just gave us a lot of different examples. They did send out a PowerPoint that's got, the statistics for the program, and I can certainly forward that on to all of you as well, if you'd like that. But again, it was just a thought of something to be able to think about that could be,
I just have a
we
hard
could
time
create our
telling
own
somebody
version of a program.
how to take care of their building and do their and also as a business owner downtown who has 2 buildings, you just took away part of my competitive advantage. I
Mhm.
paint my building, my weeds are all sprayed and gone in front of my building, and some of the other folks don't. Not that I want whole downtown, I just have a hard time telling somebody, you have to paint it that color, you have to fix this, you have to do that. That's their building.
I have a tough time,
Yeah, go ahead.
telling anybody what they have to do with it as long as they're following building code, city code, because all you're gonna do is chase them away from Main Street to the rest of the town. Because
Yeah,
if I
and
owned a
it's-
business there, I'd be selling it as soon as I heard this was coming.
Yeah.
I'd get rid of it and I'd move somewhere else in town, or out of town.
And it wouldn't
before
be something where
I
you'd
was
have
forced
to have a certain color paint, or that, it wouldn't be a uniformity type of item. It'd be, is your building up to code? Do you have leaks going through here? Is it, and the problem is for vacant buildings. your building's not vacant, you aren't subject to any of this. If your
Right.
building is vacant and it's an eyesore and it's causing people not to want to be downtown or a certain portion of downtown,
What do you do?
those are the
What?
businesses that would
Well,
be
how do you
seeing
let-
problems.
That's
the-
what I was just gonna say, you know, there is some eyesore stuff downtown right now.
Absolutely.
And I-
Mhm.
you know, somebody like Pete, for example, he don't weed in front of his place, for Christ's
Yeah.
sake.
And that's
It
what
is a
this is
problem.
geared
It
towards.
Well, I'll be talking to him this week.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
the
job
weed
as a weed
inspector.
inspector, is
You
to
are the
talk to
weed
everybody.
inspector. Okay, weed inspector, yeah.
The other problem I have
Yeah.
downtown, no
I
offense
know, I
to
was
it,
that.
I don't care what the building looks like, I'll go into it if it's the parking. You can fix the buildings all you want, until you can fix parking downtown, you're still not gonna get people downtown. That angle parking, you only get one spot, you know, there's not enough parking for the businesses that are there now. Without parking a block or two away and with the things tore up.
Mhm.
A lot of people avoid, they'll park a block off to walk downtown and then walk in. It's not the building scaring them away, it's the parking and then trying to back out without running into somebody. And people flying by them when they're trying to back out.
Yeah,
That's the
especially about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when
Yeah.
people are going northwest,
I
or
mean,
northwest home.
I
Especially
talked
now
to
with,
They go down
Casey
Main
about
Street.
seeing what we can do to
Holy.
lower the speed limit on Main
Yeah.
Street.
20 would be good.
We're looking at
It's
that.
dangerous.
so, I mean, that's a bigger,
It's too fast.
Yeah.
that's a bigger problem than the building.
It's peaceful. I guess, I'm not saying no, don't get the
No, no,
information.
no,
I'm
no.
looking
No,
at it,
yeah,
I'm
I'm just throwing out input.
I said, sorry, and sometimes, you know, let's just face it, there's people that don't like me, and they aren't gonna rent from me if my building was a Taj Mahal. And there's people, you may have
Right.
people downtown with a personality that it doesn't matter how good their building looks and all that. After they have a conversation with them, they aren't gonna rent from them, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, how do you legislate that? You can't, you know, so I,
Yeah.
get the information, as far as I'm concerned, that's
Yeah.
fine, I just.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
good discussion,
Yeah, so it's like, just remember though, that if it's not vacant, it would not be subject to even needing to be checked out, because the point of the program would be for the vacant buildings that are eyesores. And that's where it's geared at, because when we have ones that aren't getting rented out, and it's just sitting there constantly deteriorating year after year, eventually it's gonna get to the point where the building isn't gonna be inhabitable anymore.
Well, Pat would really like this rule.
Well, we all know where
he's
the idea
got-
probably was geared toward in the first place.
I know the intent. I know the intent.
It's like,
I
that's
just
kinda
don't
where
look,
I was
I just don't
going.
look forward to a phone call from him again.
Yeah, you want another
Again.
one?
Yeah.
I'll be more than happy to answer that one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's tough, it is. She says that now.
No, she would be probably, yeah.
As I say, worked in politics, I'm used to getting yelled at, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Regarding the parking though, did you want me to look into finding out what would, like a parking study?
I have no idea what you would do, honestly. The angled parking is, I know when they redid Main Street, they pushed for it, but if you talk to a lot of people, you get full-size vehicles, one on either
Yeah.
side, and then you got full-size vehicles coming at each other, and somebody ain't gonna
Too
stop.
tight.
Yeah, so it's, but how do you limit people and tell them they can't park in front of their building, like?
Absolutely.
So it's.
More of a safety thing would be put parallel on one side and angle on one side.
Angle on, yeah, but.
But then you're limiting that
The
side.
side of the business.
More numbers, you
Yeah.
know, so
There's got to be a problem, you know, and I'm not blaming the business, of course, but when this place come in downtown there, you know, I just don't know if we did enough studying on parking spots.
Mhm.
Right, there could be 30 cars there.
Oh, yeah,
Which is
easily.
great.
It's
Yeah.
great,
However.
it's great, but, you know,
It
for
takes
a
a-
business that's right there, you know, that depends on walk-in business, it's tougher.
And you could take, you know, parking is an issue, just,
It
if
always
there was
is
a
gonna
place
be.
for all the employees and business owners to park that wasn't on the street, and the street was for customers and clients, it would alleviate some of the problem.
Sure.
But you need room in alleys and back parking to have that, and where do we put that? So
Yeah.
How is it
You know-
during daycare pickup time, like after school, is that?
Well, how
or
about
after
even,
work, is that-
how about even before school?
7 o'clock,
Yeah.
which is
7 o'clock, oh
from
my
6
goodness.
to
6 to 8,
is-
and then from 3
Yeah.
to 6.
It's a
So
real
say between
issue.
the gym and the daycare
Yeah.
facility, that's gotta be pretty intense, I'll have to go ahead and check that out.
Well, one thing we could do is maybe at chamber meetings, it could be mentioned that, like at our building, we continuously have to talk to all of our employees about not parking right behind the building.
We've had that
You know,
conversation.
park a block
But
away,
it only
and be
lasts
there all
for-
day, and leave it for the customers, but they wanna park right by the front door.
It only lasts for.
We've
how
had
long?
that conversation
week.
a couple times a year,
Yeah.
and it just,
Yep.
Cause it's nothing, again, force, you just say, hey, it'd be nice if,
You could park on the side
street.
street, right.
You know,
Winter comes and then they forget about it.
And then part of your parking now too is,
Yeah.
Mayo is bigger, but we got the street tore up, so there's nowhere on the side streets to park either.
Mhm.
you know, there's a fair amount of parking, like if you look behind the Legion Maplewock.
Yep.
It's all privately held. I mean, if you could have parking for the
Parking lot.
business
City
owners
parking lot.
back
City
there,
parking lot.
I
the
mean-
old city hall, you know, I know that's privately held too. But there's space.
The city, with that parking ride, you know, that helped alleviate, the parking ride helped alleviate a lot of the bus and traffic downtown.
Mhm.
Remember that? That used to be a lot of it.
Yeah.
But you still, the bigger we get, the harder it is to park for,
Yeah.
and
At least you got the lot by the liquor store, which is better than nothing, that's for sure.
Yeah, so parking is an issue downtown,
Yeah.
if you look at the whole downtown, that is one of the issues.
Okay, so we'll definitely take a look at that, see what we can do to
Yeah.
I don't
address
know
that
that, right.
in the future.
I just know what people tell me.
Wow. I didn't really
Okay.
realize it was like downtown.
Anything
sure.
else in the seat updates?
Nope, that is it for what we've done on there.
Any more discussion on that, guys?
No.
Thank you.
I think we're done.
Okay, Dodge County Housing Study, we're to now.
Yes, so Tom Munson, who's one of our OGC reps, he works out in Maynardville, he is working with Dodge County right now to get a housing study. There are going to be breakouts for each of the cities as well, so Casson will be getting a breakout done. And that will be to the federal standards that we need for the big federal loans.
What's that, big federal loan for what?
Well, like, if we wanted to get in on any of the big federal, grant or loan programs,
For what?
anything that comes out of the
Housing?
comp program, anything that we're looking at expanding on, it's just gonna give us more options essentially. By having it to those standards rather than just a standard
So if the
housing
city was
study.
gonna do it or something,
No,
investor come in?
An investor come in, but.
Want to build an apartment?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'd already have all of the information we need
So
out there.
it'd be easier for them to come
and get.
Yep.
money, yeah. 'cause
Yep,
it'll be
exactly.
federal.
The proposals, the RFP's been sent out, the proposals are slowly coming in from what I hear, so we should be hearing back shortly what the expected cost is gonna be, and then it'll be obviously broke out between communities.
And they-
The city council, I believe, has estimated approximately $7,000 for Casson. I think that's what it was, so it's already, it's already budgeted for.
It has to be a study,
Budgeted last year for two.
but it has to be a study so that these guys can get this money.
Otherwise they don't.
Cause obviously,
Well,
we
that's
know
right.
there's a housing shortage in Casson.
But
Right.
without proving it to the
Yeah.
federal.
Okay,
Yeah,
If they,
You know.
burden of proof
Yep.
essentially, yeah.
okay.
Trying to get past it, so yeah, that's basically all I got on the housing study, just kinda keeping you guys updated where we're at on that, so we're just waiting for those proposals to come back right now.
Okay. EDA focus.
So the EDA focus, you guys should all have in front of you, which is the Buxton surplus analysis, and the leakage report. On the very, very back page is kind of what our biggest takes from that are. The report that we run basically is showing us, based on the trends that are going on in our region, where we're missing out. So, for example, if you go through and you take a look at the subcategories for motor vehicles and dealers, you know, you can see that we're not actually doing too bad on the major category of motor vehicles, but we're losing out a good amount when it comes to automotive parts, accessories, and tires. Or the worst one, that I've seen on here is, or you can look at the liquor store one too, that one just shows how good that's doing. But we're having a really, really big problem with like clothing. That's probably the largest leakage that we have. When you look at men's clothing, women's clothing, those types of things, now Shopko is available, but as far as really getting to go out and do, you know, apparel shopping, we're missing out on over, you know, millions a year in revenue that we could be getting here.
So it's the study like this, and what do we do with it?
basically what we're doing now is it's letting us know where we're missing, so then we can focus on what type of businesses we wanna encourage to come into town. You know, where we're actually doing okay already. Another thing that I offered at our last chamber meeting, and I've actually gotten a few requests, and we'll get started on them, is we're gonna take a look, say you want, we're just gonna go with the liquor store for fun. I can get a report finding out in the region, what are the most popular types to the least popular types of alcohol, right? So I'm gonna look at vodkas, and I'm gonna pull out and find out, okay, these are the top 30 vodkas that we should be selling here. I can get that information over to our liquor store, and then go, okay, well, I only carry 3 of these brands. Well, they know which other ones that people are going to Rochester to buy because they can't get it here. Well, now they can come and they can shop at their local liquor store, because we're gonna be carrying it. Because they didn't ask them to get it, because they just went there once, saw they didn't have it, and never went back. But they knew they could get the variety in Rochester. Well, now we know which ones are gonna be popular, and we can prevent them from ever leaving in the first place.
So what this study is for the whole area?
Yes, and it is gonna be regional,
What they drink
yep.
the most of,
Yep.
basically in that example.
Exactly, and
So
we
like
can do the same thing with automotive
shot,
parts.
nobody would know that.
Correct.
Like the distributor wouldn't know that.
Correct.
So did you use the trade area that I kind of
Yes.
made up in May?
Yep, it's a customized drive time essentially from the city of Casson to where our residents are traveling to on the day-to-day, or where people are coming into Casson on the day-to-day.
So like, for example, on this clothing thing, I mean, quite honestly, who's gonna bring a clothing store here?
Well, it's not necessarily that it needs to be just clothing, because again, we've got Shopco now, which that should help. But there's also, you know, you find individuals who have boutiques in Rochester, and they'd like to open up just a few satellite stores. Those kinds of individuals could come in. You know, we're not gonna get a Macy's or a JCPenney probably coming in anytime soon, but
Yeah.
you might be able to get a small version of a Maurice's to come in for women's clothing.
So you're talking more specialty stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. But some of those ones are a little more popular, because I'm sure, you know, you get high school girls, they'll be heading down to, you know, Claire's or Maurice's or Vanity, those type of stores.
And the store that's already there, they're gonna have better buying power than versus.
So does Button take into account like Amazon, what Amazon's doing right now?
It's not gonna be able to account for it in the way that I think we'd like it to, I guess would be the honest answer. So I'd go with probably no.
I know just tons of people, that's the only place they shop.
I do.
Oh, I'm
Most
guilty of
people
it
don't, yeah.
myself, absolutely.
They got them little things now, you just put under your toilet paper, when you're done, you press the button and it automatically orders toilet paper.
Oh my goodness.
It's a little button. It's for paper
That
towels,
pop up.
it's for this,
I know what
it's
you're
for
talking
that.
about. I've never.
You buy it, you get them for free, and then you can put them wherever you
That's a little too
want
much
to. and
technology in my
yeah,
bathroom right
boom,
there.
you press it, and it
I know what
automatically
you're talking about.
orders,
I've
in
never-
2 days it's there.
Yep. Oh, 2-day product.
2-day product.
If I could, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
this report is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, you know, your question about clothing, you take a look at a town like Zumbrota. You know, they had an article in the front page of the Post Bulletin here a few weeks ago about the 6 women business owners downtown.
Yep.
Well, 2 of them are clothing stores. One is a gal that, used to work in restorative justice in Wabasha County, retired, you know, opened this little boutique, specialized boutique. And then there's another store called Phenomenal Women that caters to plus size. And I mean, it's a destination place, and there's buses that come, you know, to these couple stores, and, you know, I don't know if quilts are part of that, but quilting is such a huge
huge thing,
following thing
yeah.
too, so it's all a matter of, kinda like your housing study, it's, okay, if you find somebody that has a little bit of interest, here, look at our leakage reports and.
So is this Buxton then, do they look for businesses for us?
Yeah,
Yeah, they do that.
they've got 3,500 businesses that they work with,
Yeah.
and then based on this report, they'll give us a list of certain businesses that fit this. So then, because then there's a more detailed report in the big sporting goods, and that's when there's nothing in town for.
Cause that's what I'm trying to
So
find
no-
out, how do we get this information to
Right, so then-
entrepreneurs that
Mhm.
wanna come here?
So then they put together a package for us
Yep.
that we can take to those businesses. And so we reached out to a dozen or so far, heard back from a couple, and it's a long process. You know, just like when, you know, the example of somebody said, well, why isn't it working? Why don't we have a bunch of new businesses in town? I said, well, You look how long it took Home Federal to buy Casson State Bank, and those are two existing businesses. It took a
That's
year.
how long it took shop put to get here.
Yeah, you know, these
Or the
businesses
first Quick Trip.
don't just all of a sudden show up. It's gonna be a 2 to 3 year process to show them. And we've got some good information back from a couple. And we got you know, one of the most sought after businesses people kept telling us was Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So we reached out to Taco Bell, and Taco Bell gave us some good feedback and just said, you know, one, we don't think you're busy enough, you don't have enough traffic. And the one that hurt us the most on that was they mentioned Burger King specifically,
Yeah.
because all those fast food restaurants talk, Burger King's numbers are bad. There must be a
Trying to
reason
get
why.
them to understand why they're bad.
I've been trying to get them to
Yeah.
understand why, that don't use that as your comparison.
Yeah, no,
You know,
yeah.
give us a chance and everything else. So, it's been interesting to talk to some of them and what they're looking for. And some of them, we have what they're looking for, we just don't have it in the way for them to see it yet, and we need to get boots on the ground in town, so
Yeah.
it's a slow process, but we are making some
Mhm.
We're moving forward.
contacts with
Yeah.
people.
And the
noticing what it is.
International Trade Show in Chicago, is that September?
I
think.
think so.
Yeah, there's a trade show in September that I think Buxton is encouraging Tasson to attend, where we can actually go in and meet with some of the representatives from some of these groups too, to have a discussion, which having a little face-to-face to be able to explain the Burger King situation and to,
That's
I
the
don't know,
one
just to
that-
kinda clarify a few things that maybe on paper they think are.
They had one in May in Vegas, and that's the one I was tentatively gonna go to, but we didn't have all the information we needed yet, so I didn't. But they were going to set up actual appointments with a couple dozen of these businesses to say, hey, at 10:15 here, you're here, at 10:30 you're at this booth, to get them there. I think that's really gonna get people, just come take a look.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause you can look at the numbers, which is a good step, but you really need to come look at the town too.
Yeah.
So I don't think people realize that
Burger King's.
what's going on in
location is
town on
now-
a regular basis with the school events and
Yeah.
other events, you know, Highway 57 has tremendous traffic.
Yeah, it's just,
that you wouldn't
got
guess
as much
it
as
would have.
Lakeville does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
17,000-18,000 people a day.
A day.
Yeah, so there's potential, we just need to somehow get that hook that says, come give it a shot, or.
And so, and how do we, you know, this information, is there like a website besides our Castle website, or whatever, other websites where, like these ladies that you were talking about, Ron, you know, and have these places up there, maybe they wanna put another store over here, how do you even get them information that it might work here?
You probably
Because we've got
can.
this Buxton
Go talk
stuff.
to them.
So yeah, we just reach out and.
But how do you know who's out there? I mean, these little people, I mean, I know the
Mhm.
big people that pay 3,500, but they don't have the plus size lady up here on their list of 3,500.
Well, if we kinda have an idea of what we're looking for, I mean, you know, it's just,
Yeah,
it's a matter
Google
of
it.
sitting down and doing the
Google it, yeah.
research, and I'm more than happy to assist with that, where we can just sit down and take a look at what businesses are in the vicinity, like a certain range, and we'll just start looking for,
Cause don't you guys
Looking
think,
for what we can
I
find.
mean, that we, you know, Main Street, you know, where, whatever you call Main Street now, but, you know, the old Main Street, you know, going up there. Is that, you know, it's more for specialty shops, a jeweler, it's, you know, those types of businesses, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Service.
Services, yeah, services, of course, but, I mean, if you're gonna have
Especially
shopping,
clock
it
shops
should be
there
clock
now.
shops there now, and
Where you-
it would
where-
make sense
where
to
you
have
only
a
got one
boutique,
client
it
every-
would.
And it's still, go to research, you know, about 5 years ago, my wife and I went for a drive in southern Minnesota, and Iowa. We took 3 days.
Yep.
And we spent the night 3 different places, but we drove through every town between 4,000 and 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And we just took a notebook, and we drove down their main streets and wherever else, looked up their chamber websites on our phones, we went down, what businesses did they have? And if some of them looked good or whatever, we'd actually go in and ask them, hey, how's it going, what brings people here, whatever. And that drove our decision to buy the variety store.
Yep.
Not because we wanted all the stuff.
Yep.
We wanted the sewing and the quilting.
Yep.
Because every store in Iowa has a quilt shop.
Yeah.
Every city, every
Northern-
small town
northern
of
Minnesota,
2 to 5,000 people has a quilt shop. Some have 2 or 3
Yeah.
on the same main street, so we're like, we really don't have that, Cass, and it's gotta work for somebody, you know, so. I think part of it's just, gotta get out and look, and then.
I think a lot of it too is don't underestimate your own residents and your own business owners. You know, if the information comes back and you wanna go after a certain thing, don't just keep it amongst yourselves and tell Rebecca to go out and find something in another community. You know, do a press release, you take a look at EOTA, they were without a dentist for a while, and they did a press release that we're looking for a dentist, we'll provide incentives. Well, the guy from Wabasha opened up a branch office in EOTA now. so they got their dentist. And you know, word of mouth is really a big key.
Chris, you know that on the line of closing that Colleen Jacobson holds quilting stuff out at her place?
Yep, they all come, yep.
Yeah, she gets.
Yeah, it's, when we, I'm not in that business, my wife helped do that, so I'm talking way out of school here above my pay grade, but when, we had no idea that there were so many of these quilting clubs to get together once a month or every other month, and they'll come in out to the Milton House, and there'll be 30 ladies from all over the state get together, and they quilt for 5 days, and they're in every morning at 9 o'clock when the shop opens, buy their stuff, and the next day they're back, so we got coffee for them or whatever, because it's like, I had no idea what's going on out there, so, I like that idea though, about press release to the people
That's
in
a
the
good
community.
idea.
Because somebody might say, hey, I'm sick of driving to the cities for work every day, and I didn't realize
There
I
was
got
an
some
option.
background in something, and that's a great idea.
Well, they might wanna do something, maybe they're at the age like you were saying, you know, about retiring at 55, you know, and, you know, maybe somebody would wanna start a jewelry store. Maybe they would like jewelry, who the heck knows, you know, I don't know. Talking to Tangy up in Canyon, they wanna start a branch office here, I'll manage it, run it, you know.
If you know any retail businesses in town, what we offered at the chamber, so to an individual business, if they come in and, you know, Rebecca can do it, I can do it, where I've got access to the website, you can drill this down to their retail establishment, to the product that, and we can even draw and we can even do it customized where somebody comes and says, well, this is where my customers come from, great, we can draw that little line and
Yep.
say, boom, based on this data, the people that live in that area, they're spending 75% of their money outside of your store.
Because you don't have what I want.
And here's the list of the things they're buying. And I just could not believe, because I called to follow up, to see how many had called, you know, and none at a time, so then I made my wife call, just so we had one, you know, and I'd be sick.
Yeah, no, I've got 3 or 4 houses, they have variety store is on there.
But, you know, anybody who has a retail business should be, this is, I mean.
It's here, it's free to you,
Yeah.
as a business, it doesn't.
And just to play around with it, I went and was thinking, well, Hardware Hank, let's check out Hardware Hank. And it's like, you can check and see, like, where are we losing when it comes to individual tool sales versus the you know, small machinery versus, you know, the little knick-knack bits that you need to, you know, screws and those kind of things. And literally, it gets it down by product, so that we know, okay, this is what you have, and people want, like, here's what you have, but this is what people want, and this is what you don't have, and people want, right? And we're kind of sliding in here. We're just going to try to keep on getting them to expand their product base, to include all those things, so that not only are people going to be coming to you for what they were originally getting, well, now they're in your store. Now they're in your store, and they're going to get everything else that they can get there without having to go out of town.
Speaking of press releases, maybe a press release on that information being available
Absolutely.
would be good, because not everybody came to the chamber meeting or was a chamber member. You know, I'm looking at this thinking, if I'm Houston's greenhouse with nursery and garden center, I'm gonna jump all this and find it. And you know, some people are going to weddings because they're buying in mass quantities and probably include some kind, so some of it, you're not gonna get 100% of it, but boy, if, you know, 70% of the sales for that department aren't in our town, and we've got one place that sells that stuff, you know, Hank has a little bit, Shop Clothes, little stuff on the
Very
side,
little.
but that's
Yep.
their bread and butter. I'd be all over this, finding out what are people buying somewhere else. Maybe I need to put up another section of greenhouse and have more petunias or whatever.
Well, yeah, and the disappointment in that, initially, nobody was asking for the information, is this is free. We're not charging anybody for these reports, you know, we've already got bucks in. What could it hurt? Like, what could it hurt just to find out where you're leaking? You're leaking money, like.
You know, that's good, you know, I had a conversation with Brad at the comprehensive plan meeting last Tuesday about that, and he said they did a comp plan up in the center, sewer. And, they were talking to business owners downtown there, cause, you know, the city was like, hey, we need to get more business and this and that, and they started talking to business owners, and he said half the business owners said, yeah, we're busy enough, we really aren't interested in working any harder, you know, we're good. And here the city's thinking, oh, shoot, we thought we wanted to, you know, and people are like, we really don't want, that means if I have to do that, I have to go restock a bunch of stuff, hire, you know, we're good. You know.
We're doing okay where we're at, we don't want more.
I'm thinking, what?
And the city does have Cambria on top of the hill too.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
cost can you start?
Yeah.
How long will it?
shelf life.
But you
and
do
all
see
kind of
that.
stuff.
Inventory's
Yeah,
back.
you're leaking it, but, you may get into it.
Okay,
That is all I've got.
anybody got any other business they'd like to talk about? Okay, if not, I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
So
Like
moved.
that, I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No,
Hey, nice
information, no.
face that now too.
What? I have all the information, I had a meeting with my insurance company, I go back down, this is much that.